All right, so you've gotten some practice punching the numbers in. So now let's go and let's see how are we actually going to use this. So the first thing I'm going to do, like I've been doing, is I'm going to label all the sides of my triangle. So here, hypotenuse. Between the right angle and the angle in question, so between this angle and this angle would be the adjacent side, and that leaves this as being the opposite side. So I've got to still know what these, excuse me, what these trig functions are before I gotta know what my trig functions are before I can figure out what my angle is. So theta in this case is x, that's what I'm looking for. The adjacent side is 6, and the opposite side is 8. So which of my trig functions uses the adjacent and opposite side? Well, that would be the tangent. So when I substitute this stuff in, I get tangent of x equals adjacent goes on the bottom and opposite goes on the top. Now earlier, I was telling you that all you had to do was type in this 8/6 and that would be your answer because you were looking for something different. And these problems, we're actually trying to figure out what that x value is. So we're going to use the inverse function, and this is what it would look like. You would say x degree equal tangent, and you're going to put that -1, and then you're going to put that fraction in parentheses. So earlier you were just typing in a decimal, but decimals are numbers, fractions are numbers. We can type either one into the calculator. So let me just clear out what I've got, and I'm going to go to the tangent, the inverse tangent function, and now I'm going to type 8 divided by 6, and I'm going to close my parentheses just to make sure, and so that angle is 53.1 degrees. So label your triangle, figure out which trig function you're going to be able to use, type it in. So the next problem, example 5, this is the hypotenuse. Here's the adjacent side, it's between my two angles, and here's the opposite side. So I'm using the hypotenuse, let's write everything down, x. So the hypotenuse is 10, and the opposite is 6.5. So if I'm using the hypotenuse and the opposite, hypotenuse and opposite, that would be the sine. So sine of x degrees is 6.5 over 10. So x is the inverse sine function, 6.5 divided by 10. All right. So x is going to be 40.5 degrees. 40.5 degrees. All right. Example 6, find the unknown measures. So there's lots of different things that I'm going to find here. First, I'm going to find angle R, because that's the first thing on my list. So, if I'm looking at R, this is going to be the hypotenuse, and this is going to be the adjacent side. Okay, so theta is R, because that's what I'm trying to find. The adjacent side is 5 and the hypotenuse is 5.7. So let me think back to what I've got. I've got sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. I've got the adjacent in the hypotenuse, so I'm going to have to use the cosine. Cosine of r is 5 over 5.7. So we're going to use, to find r is the inverse of cosine 5 divided by 5.7. So functions inverse 5 divided by 5.7. 28.69, so we're going to say r is 28. What did it tell me to round to? Round to the nearest hundredth, and angle measures to the nearest degree. So 28.69, that is going to make that a 29. So r equals 29 degrees. All right. So how am I going to find the angle of measure t? Or the measure of angle t, I should say. Well, I could use some pretty handy-dandy trig in one of these functions, and I could reset up my problem. But I'm going to use something that's probably a little bit easier. We know that this is 90 degrees. And we now know that r is 29 degrees. And I'm working with a triangle. So can I just say that 180 subtract 90 subtract 29 would give me that angle t? Yeah, pretty sure that's going to give me what I need. 61 degrees. All right. Now, how do I find the measure of ST? Well, that's what I was doing last week. Like, I've already done problems like that. So, let's set this up. And I'm going to say X goes there. So, in this problem, I have to find ST, I have theta is 29. I have the adjacent is 5. The hypotenuse is 5.7. And now the opposite is X. That'd be the opposite side because it's across from the 29. So because I have so much more information, I can pick which one of these trig functions that I want to use. As long as the opposite is in there, because that's the piece that I'm missing. So I could use the tangent function, or I could use the sine function. Either one of those would work because they both have the opposite, and I know the hypotenuse, and I know the adjacent side. Just because sine is the first one, I'm going to use sine. So, sine 29 degrees equals X over 5.7. Cross multiply. X will equal 5.7 times sine 29 degrees. So, X equals 5.7 sine 29 degrees. So ST is going to be 2.67. Oh, I said that wrong. 2.76. That's it.